What's up, brothers and sisters? It's your brother G World 7_D, and I want to talk about something real quick. And I have here. I want you to pick up on certain things again, but you have to understand how our history has been stolen from us. But what has happened over the past? See, when you study history, one of our downfalls I've always said is that how many of these black nations fought amongst each other. And then I'd agree they teamed up with other fractions to go against another group, or even sided against each other to take over land and rulership. And then some of them made it with foreigners. You know, and I'm going to go into my encyclopedia right here. All right, and I'm at the state. I'm going to go to the state of Michigan. I am in the state of Michigan. I'm going to read this part right here, and I'm going to pull it up. Pull it up right here, because I just had it, and it really bugs me when you pull it up and you can't get it. But I'm going to read this part here, and it talks about the state of Michigan. All right, and because this is some stuff that, we really going to have to really pick up on our history, know of our history, and understand how our stuff was stolen from us. All right, now look, as I read this right here, get a clear image. A clear image right here. Okay, it's the people of Michigan. Now, it's about as clear as it's going to be. The people of Michigan. Before the coming of the white man, the Michigan country was a rich hunting ground for Indians. The main tribes of the Algonquin stock were the Ojibwa or Chippewa, the Potawatomi, the Ottawa, the Menominee, and the Miami. The Huron were an Iroquoian tribe. In the French and Indian War, Chief Pontiac allied the Ottawa with the French. Some tribes fought with the British in the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812. American victories broke the power of the Indians. The last Indian holdings were surrendered in 1842. You get a clear image of that. All right, you can get a clear image of that, what I just read. Let me be clear right here. All right. Now, the Ojibwa or the Chippewas. Now, I'm going to turn and show you out of this book, and I showed you this book before. A Pure. The implications and ramifications of the artificial black identity, a legal chronology of the Americas 1492 to 1968, concise and definitive. This is second edition. All right. I'm going to show you the Chippewa. I showed this before. All right, this is a Chippewa. All right, these are the Chippewas. Notice how this brother has this big ass afro, or this individual had this big ass afro. All right, I believe it's a woman. There's this big ass afro combed out. Notice his colors. Face sort of painted red, blue, and white. Red, white, and blue. And then if you look at a lot of those archaeological sites, you'll see like they found like pics, like Afro pics that you've seen brothers and sisters was having here in the 60s and 70s and 80s. You see some brothers in the Pacific Islands with big ass picks. But they also found a lot of those archaeological digs. You found those big ass picks. Picks that was obviously used to pick out hair. Not hair that has lice in it to pick out a furrow. Alright? I'm going there, man. I'm going there. This is your so-called Chippewa. Alright? This is how they originally look here in the Midwest. Alright? You had another group here in the Midwest from this book. The Middle Ground. Indians, Empires, and Republics in the Great Lakes region, 1650 to 1815. Alright? Here's a Negro again. Knows the tattoos on his body, the bow and arrow. This is obviously, unquestionably, and look at the little moccasins wearing his feet. This is obviously, unquestionably, a Negro man. This is what you call, known as the Fox Indians. Alright? This is a Fox Indian of the Midwest. Detroit. Chicago. This is a Fox Indian. Wisconsin. This is a Fox Indian. And I just showed you the Chippewa. These are how the Indians look in the Midwest. So the Indians in the Midwest and in Canada. Remember I emphasized how in Canada you had those black Indians. You had them here in the Midwest too. Remember I told you they traveled by boat. They sailed on the seas. And right off from the waters, they built structures right near the waterways. Alright, they built structures right near the waterways. As I read earlier, how one group went with the French, one group went with the British. That was one of the many downfalls because you had these black groups going against each other and fighting amongst each other. And then siding with different groups to take over others' land or others' region. This is one of the downfall of the black, Aboriginal blacks that were here in America, man. This is one of the downfall. It was like a divide and conquer. It was to be fighting amongst each other, but you had great empires here in the Americas. But unfortunately, like I said before, your Pan-Africans don't see this, they don't know this, because they're ignorant of this. They have not studied this, and when you listen to them, it's sad how ignorant they really are. It really is. It's really sad how ignorant they are because they haven't studied nothing. They haven't studied nothing. They haven't done no research on anything. Like I said, I showed you the brother's shoes. Now, those shoes look very familiar. Alright? Those shoes that you see, also you see on some of the Moors in Europe. There's images of the Moors who are holding down their castle in, I want to say, Germany. And they had the guards there. They had the prince, the princess, the king, and his queen. And they're protecting the castle from the wild beast people or the wild cave people. And these people had hair all over their bodies. And obviously they look white. Alright? These are black people protecting their castle in Europe from white invaders. The wild beast people. And those very shoes that he's wearing right here, those brothers and sisters were wearing, protecting their castle in Europe. Like I said, this is a Fox Indian. This is a Fox Indian here in the Midwest. Alright, and I showed you a picture of the Chippewa. And I also showed you a picture of a lot of the Timucua Indians before. The black population was all over the Americas. They weren't just settled. We weren't just in so-called West Africa stranded. We were all over in the damn Americas. So we're going to have to truly understand that. And, anyone who's still preaching that mess that we just brought over here slaves from Africa really need to be, you really just need to ignore them. Because, it just tells me that they're pathetic, they're pitiful, and they really haven't studied no damn history. All right, they really haven't studied any damn thing. Studied nothing. And they continue to push that gibberish, man. Push that damn gibberish about our people. Lie about our people. And just say that we're slaves. That obviously here's Montezuma. Remember I always said how those state capitals and these structures, look at those pylons there, that round circle, and then the little structure on top of it, then the little needle on top. All that architecture that you see in every state with this type of building coming from these black people now. Look at him with the feathers, with like a little wrap on his head, like maybe a turban on his head. Feathers right here. The sword, or the shield, the spear. This is how Montezuma look like, right? But then they got a fake one that make him look white. They don't even look real, particularly in this particular region of the world when obviously he's going to have to be dark. But they have a fake pale one of him. This is called stealing your history, man. This is these individuals who are doing this are really stealing your history. And they're telling you that you're foreign in your own land and that you come from Africa. You got to stop these lies, man. And then when you present this stuff to these so-called goofy Pan-Africans, man, they want to ignore it, which is really sad. It's truly sad. It's truly, truly sick and sad. But this is the mindset that you get. And this is a Florida Indian. Like I said, they were jet black. Jet black. All right. So I'm going to eventually go also talk about the Fox Wars, which is in this book here. Dealing with different Indian groups in the Midwest, the Illinoisans, the Ottawas, the Chippewas. It's the various different, the Miamis, all of the Indianans, the Indianans, all of them are in this book, and it's very different Indian groups. There's very different wars between the Aboriginal black Indians that was here in America, man. And like I said, the downfall to a lot of our people had to do with in-house fighting amongst each other. And so we're going to have to understand that was part of the big destruction of our people. Like I'm going to show this brother again. Right. This is not an African slave who just wandered out somewhere in the Midwest. No, this is an Aboriginal black person. They didn't have to bring a bunch of slaves from Africa here because all the black people are already here. They did not die off. They were reclassified. That's another lie that white folks say they just died of disease. Some died of disease. A nice number of them did die from disease. Many didn't. All right. Many did not die of disease. Many of them, their land was taken from and stolen from. And then, unfortunately, some of them did mix in with a lot of the foreigners who came here. And that helped to dilute the population and starting a whiten up process. But the people who run around here claim to be, quote, the Indians who are, quote, Native Americans are not the indigenous people. The indigenous people were black people. And many of them know this, man. So this information needs to be out here. I went to my encyclopedia. I went to this book called The Middle Ground, Indians, Empires, and Republics in the Great Lakes region, 1650 to 1815. And then the A. Pierre book, The Implications and Ramifications of the Artificial Black Identity, A Legal Chronology of the Americas, 1492 to 1968, concise and definitive second edition. All right, so I gave you 3 different sources, and I've been giving pounds and pounds of sources, man. But what I'm telling you is this. Like I said, there's always some similarities from the black people here in other regions. Why there are similarities? Because they did some form of cross-pollination, where they traveled and they planted their seed in another region, or they had different forms of trade with one another. But I know they traveled to different lands and traded with one another. So we have to understand that the fact is, like I said, our people weren't landlocked. our people traveled around the globe. All right, our people travel around the globe. So we have to understand that. So when you see some of these Negroes with all this tattoo on them, it is some of them just going back to the damn ancestors, like this brother here, man. Some of them just going back to the damn ancestors. So we're going to have to really learn our true history. We can't depend on the educational system because it's a total lie. And you listen to these white folks and some of these Negroes, man, they're giving you a misinformation on our true history. And that's a damn shame, and that's sad. And so when you constantly hear people say they're descendant of African slaves here in America, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. They really don't. They really don't, man, because they haven't studied. I just showed you right there a black, and then even one of the names, it has the E at the end of it, or the ski at the end of it. It has that name. It has that name at the end. So like I said before, like Tennessee, and I can't forget about the Creek Town, Ofusky. these names are so similar. It's so similar. It's a reason why they're similar, because you had the same people there who broke off in different tribes. And then you have earlier black groups that were here. And obviously, they'll break off in different tribes and then form or nations and then form other nations and other groups. So I just talked about Midwest Indians. I just showed you the Chippewa, who rocked the woolly. Many of them rocked the woolly, big ass combed out afros that you seen in the 1960s. And you see some brothers and sisters in the Pacific Islands with those combed out afros, and you see them holding a pick. And then there's some of those picks found at many different archaeological sites here in Americas. Those same type of picks that you see brothers and sisters had in the 70s and 60s. Also, you see brothers on big type wooden picks. You see brothers and sisters in the Pacific Islands were found here in America and at archaeological sites, like I just said. The original people in America were so-called black. It was all black. That's not even up for debate anymore. It's never been up for debate. The only people who want to make a debate out of this are black people who want to remain ignorant and think of themselves as being slaves from Africa and to try to argue with you about that. Don't waste your time on that. That's a lost soul. There's too much information. There's too much documentation to show who the original people in Americas were. So anyone who's telling you that you're a descendant of African slaves is just a flat out traitor. That's all they are. They are a traitor who don't know what they're talking about. And you need to see them as that. Period. This is not up for debate. This has never been up for debate, like I just said. This is our history. And we've been lied to say that we come from somewhere else. And then you get people like Umar Johnson, which I would love for the brother to start a school, but actually teach them right history, not fake history. He continues to say that we're descendants of African slaves. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He really doesn't. But as well as those Pan-Africans like the Amara Squad, they don't know what they're talking about. This is why I don't listen to them. I don't listen to most of these black scholars because they have you spinning in a circle and they don't have you going forward. They just have you going backwards. No, I don't have time for that. We must move forward, and we must not listen to these Jack Daniel type of Negro preachers or so-called scholars because they're not going to get you anywhere. Anywhere. So, brothers and sisters, this is another presentation by your soul brother G World, man. I want to say peace and love, brothers and sisters. I may try to do another video this weekend. Hell, this weekend not, but I may try to do another one. Peace and love. I love you. Peace.